This is a training video for the Illinois Department of Transportation Traffic Crash Report, SR1050, the 2019 version. This video will be using the actual crash report. The PowerPoint presentation will be available online with this video. A link will be sent out to using a mass email. The contact information, write this down, or you can use the PowerPoint presentation later. For anything to do with the crash report, how to fill it out, any questions on it, you can call Greg Gifford. His contact information is there. Anything to do with the electronic version or any problems with filling out the form, contact Dan Hillen. And anything doing with the crash data, if you need the crash data or any other questions you may have, you can contact myself at the information listed on the screen.
All right, my name is Greg Gifford, and I'm going to be going over this crash report with you guys. Basically, we're gonna review the whole report. We can go through quite a bit, but we are going to highlight the things that have changed. So why don't we just go ahead and get started, and we'll get right into it. The class should only take about probably an hour, hour and 15 minutes maybe, and we'll go from there. We'll get you on your way. All right, the reporting requirements. Just like it's every law enforcement officer who investigates a motor vehicle crash, which a report is required, we would like to have the report within 10 days to the administrator, which the administrator is IDOT. If you can, and we do understand that sometimes lab work, that kind of thing, takes longer than the 10 days, just initially get your report completed and submitted. If we have to update at a later time, you can always use the amended report, the 1050A, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But the requirement in the IBC is they want the written report within 10 days. You must report any time you investigate a crash involving an injury, death, or damage to property. Damage to property is any one person's property, including oneself, and the reporting threshold for that is $1,500. When the uninsured or hit and run or a parked vehicle, the threshold actually does move down to $500. We'll talk about that a little bit more here also coming up. Okay, just the general information. I'm going to be teaching like you guys are handwriting this electronically. You know, it's just to fill in drop-down boxes, that kind of thing. But the crash report itself is got the main page, and then there's also two motorist reports. It's designed to be filled out the first 58 steps, and then you can pass out the motorist report forms and have them move on and out if they're ready to. If there's more than 2 units involved in the crash, that's where you'd use a 1050A report and mark it Unit 3, Unit 4, and appropriately on down the line. Do not use the next sheet on the book with a new number for that. What you'd need to do is with the 1050A, you'd need to write in the barcode number up in the upper right-hand corner. For anything, for updates, amendments, or even more notes or more narrative, always use the original barcode number on your report. We get a lot of questions, or when I used to teach this class, I got a lot of questions, or they always thought it was just really from the insurance companies. It's not really just for insurance companies. the people that use this is, besides your department, is like the engineering people, from auto manufacturers to the traffic people here at IDOT, and the highway departments here at IDOT, federally, county, city. They all look at these crash reports. Secretary of State for the driver services and the vehicle registration, they're always looking at these reports and getting information off of those too. The IDOT statisticians, the people that look at all the numbers here, they also look at these reports and try to get tendencies, that kind of thing. Here at IDOT also is we locate every crash that's been reported and sent in, location-wise. That way we can look to see if we have problem areas, if we got a certain thing going on in just one certain area. We also have the financial and safety responsibility section that is for the, what it is the financial responsibility of for maybe the uninsured or anything like that. Educational groups use it for driver training. Commercial vehicle guys use it. Their Enforcement and Commerce Commission also uses it. We have a state fatal desk here that we use for all fatals throughout the state. And we also have to send in the fatal information to the federal level out in Washington, D.C. with what they call the FAR system. It's a federal fatal crash data. The legislators here use it, courts, other participants, the other drivers, obviously, and then news and media. And then last but not least, the insurance companies also use these things also. So it's just not for insurance companies is what we're trying to say. General instructions, we just need you to use a black pen, press hard. You're going through 3 copies. When an applicable area is not being used, we like to use a 9 or a 99. Sometimes the dashes or the slashes sometimes can look like a 1 or whatever. Just try to use it that way. Up in the upper right-hand corner here is the IDOT control number. That is the barcode that you'll be using for this particular crash report and anything that goes with this crash report, including the amendments or updates or anything from lab reports, whatever you want to send us. Using that number will link it automatically to that crash. And if a mistake is found after the passing of the motorist report forms, you can always just go ahead and do a 1050, update it, change it, amend it, and resubmit it under that original crash report number, the barcode number, and it will get linked. Your amended report will get linked. Okay, let's see here. Just continuing on with the officer who investigates, we like to have the at-fault vehicle as unit number 1. And if you cannot determine right then and there or through a little investigation the at-fault vehicle, go ahead and use the striking vehicle as unit 1. And just to make sure that you keep it all that way for like the road, what road they were on, if it's more than one or two, more than one vehicle. Now, in a Type A crash, which is a type of crash that is no injuries or nobody was towed, basically the shaded area needs to be filled out and only filled out. You do not need to do a narrative and diagram. Now, I do know that some departments require them to do narrative and diagram for everything. That's a department policy for IDOT. Just the Type A, again, with the no injury and no tow, just the shaded areas, as long as you're able to tell us kind of what was going on through the event box. If you can't tell us what was going on through the event box, then we really do need you to do a narrative. For a Type B crash, we're going to need this right in here, we're going to need everything filled out, including the blue and the white area. And a narrative and diagram does need to be completed on a Type B crash. Now, do not put down C reconstruction for the diagram or C reconstruction for the narrative. Sometimes we don't receive the reconstructions. Sometimes there's up to late as a year, and sometimes, you know, they do show up better than a year. But we need to work these cases with the information that we've got. We can't sit on a case for a long period of time. So we do need just a quick little narrative and diagram. You don't have to go into great detail. And if you want to put on the narrative or the diagram, not the scaled, you know, it doesn't have to be the scale, that kind of thing. Also, if a reconstruction report is going to be done, you can also get a hold of or talk to the individual that's going to be doing the reconstruction, see how they want it set up or how they would explain it real quickly on the crash report also. Also, when it involves a large truck or commercial vehicle type or a bus or a vehicle with hazmat, don't forget to fill out the portion on the back for all the commercial vehicle, even if it's a Type A crash. So Type A and Type B crashes, it's involved a commercial vehicle, the whole report does need to be completed and filled out. All right, first thing we'll talk about is the barcode, and there it is right here. Like I said earlier, we'll be using that for anything on the report other than the original report, I should say, the amended. If any kind of mistake is made after, again, the motorist reports have been changed or anything you need to update, just go ahead and use that barcode on a new form and we'll be good to go. Now, having said that, like if you want to report a BAC or change something or update a insurance information, you do not have to rewrite the whole report. Just go ahead and write down the new information that we've got. You might want to put it in a narrative, yeah, this was an update for such and such, but you do not have to redo the whole report. Just go ahead and put in the updated information or the amended information that you wanted and resubmit it that way, and you should be good to go. The barcode off to the side here is really just for the machine purposes to read, and it just tells the machine what it's reading and what report style, so you don't have to really worry about that barcode. Let's see here. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is the investigating agency. Obviously, you guys know who you are or what it is, but the only thing we can say here is if you happen to be, for instance, like Champaign County, the city of Champaign, just kind of make sure that you put down City of Champaign or Champaign City or Champaign Sheriff. After that, we can go over here. Again, this is the damage area. Since 2009, they did bump it up to $1,500, the reporting threshold. Again, if nobody is insured or if it's a parked vehicle and you don't have that information, or if it's a hit and run, you got to kind of assume that they are not insured, so the threshold for damage would be $500 at that time. Next would be the type of report, on scene, not on scene, amended, that kind of thing, and that's about all there is to that. Next would be next we're going to be talking about, again, the crash types, the no injury, that kind of thing. Is a no injury or no towing, we are going to go ahead and just do the shaded area again, which is a type A. Type B is needs to be marked for injury or a tow. The next thing we're going to be next thing we'll move on to is the agency report number, year number there. After that, we're going to go ahead and the address number here over in this area is really good for you guys. Here at IDOT, we cannot look at a specific address to mark it on a map. That's where the measuring from or recording from the distance from the intersection comes in play. So again, the name that we'd like to use, or the highway, or the name for this area here, for this first one, we would like to have it as for the Unit 1, who is, again, the at fault or the striking vehicle. And if it is at the intersection, and we'll talk about the intersection here in a little bit, go ahead and write in the intersection name there. If it is not at the intersection, mark this right here, feet or miles, and what direction from that roadway it is. Let's see. City township is next, pretty self-explanatory. Just mark it and write it down appropriately. Let's see, intersections related. Intersection related is a crash that happens in an intersection, what's going on there, or an intersection related crash could also be outside the intersection. And it could be just a result of, say, somebody sitting in the middle of an intersection wanting to turn off a road and head to a side road. They were slowed stop, and a couple vehicles also slowed stop and came to a stop behind him waiting for traffic to clear. But then later you have somebody rear-ended back there. The crash did not happen at the intersection, but it was caused, or it was related to what was going on in the intersection, so that would be an intersection-related crash. Private property is just what it is. It's if it began on, ended on, and all damage occurred on private property, that would be a private property crash. Next on that would be hit and run, obviously yes or no. And going back to the intersection real quick, the intersection is basically if you extended the curb lines to each street or extended the side of the road to each street or road, and that creates a box in that intersection, that is the intersection, and that is the part that is considered intersection only. So like a few feet down the road with a crosswalk or anything like that is not in the intersection. Again, we'd have to have a measurement, 10 feet, 20 feet, quarter mile, whatever it is, away from that particular road. Next would be the date and time. Obviously, the dooring is, we'd know it's not a motor vehicle crash per se because there's no motor vehicle in transport, but it was something that they wanted tracked. So basically it's for bicycles going down a bike path, something like that, parked car, somebody opens a door, and they end up wiping out because somebody opened up a door on them. They're kind of wanting that marked and investigated and reported. Next would be the number of motor vehicles involved. Pretty self-explanatory there. Next would be the secondary crash, whether yes or no. Now this could be, it's not a secondary impact from the original crash. The secondary crash would be, or you could even call it a secondary an incident, is it could be from that crash that was ahead of it, and not related to that crash, but it was another crash because traffic was backed up, or people were merging over, or for that matter, if they have a disabled vehicle and the traffic flow is disrupted and people are merging over, and it's more of an incident. So if there was an incident out there and it involves this becomes a crash with something going on with another incident, then that should be marked yes. If it's not, obviously just no. The flow condition is for the roadway that it occurred on, whether it was slow, stopped, or free-flowing. Now, to the information for the Unit 1, at this point, again, like I said, is the at-fault or striking vehicle. The obvious stuff is pretty easy. Last name first, date of birth, address, that kind of thing. What's new though is on the safety equipment use. We've added some new things here in this area. They are on the template, but the new stuff is basically we've added for like child restraint. They want you to put down the correct one for like forward facing for the car seat, or if it's a rear facing, or it's a booster seat. The seat belts are pretty much the same, whether it was used or not, whether the child restraint was used or not, or if it was used properly. They have added a wheelchair and stretcher to this area in case one of those vehicles are involved in a crash. For the motorcycle and bicycle, the helmets they've added separately. For a motorcycle, DOT compliant motorcycle helmet has got its own safety equipment number now. One that's not DOT compliant has also got its own number, and a bicycle helmet for the bicyclist has also have their own safety equipment now. The airbag is pretty much the same. Nothing's really changed there. Going back down here to city and states, going line by line for this. City and states, you obviously get that information. The injury code is something that they were wanting to kind of, with a fatality it's a K, and with a type A injury, they are looking at a suspected serious injury, and they really are wanting stuff like for the type A of severe lacerations, broken and distorted, limbs, that kind of thing, serious crashes along, some burns, unconsciousness, that kind of thing. You just need to be a little bit more descriptive for that if you could, and also on that. But and then a type B is that they are injured. But it's not that bad. They may be taken away in an ambulance with type B. Type C is a possible injury, but it doesn't. You can't really tell. It's I understand you're not doctors or anything like that, but and obviously 0 for the no apparent injury. Now, what's next is we've changed it a little bit here is the ejection and ejection path. Now, this is new here. And the ejection is basically the same. It's, totally ejected, partially ejected, that kind of thing. But they have added the path. And like I said, they're trying to determine, or if you can determine possibly what position they came out of, or whether it was a side window, windshield, back window, through the moonroof, that kind of thing, out the open door. And if we understand you cannot determine that, there's you can put down a 9, or the path was unknown. Okay, telephone, driver's license, you know where you get that. State. Okay, now the class of the driver's license here. And the CDL ID is new. With the CDL, with the driver that has a CDL, there'll be an area for, or a drop down for, whether it was canceled or disqualified, or expired, revoked, valid. If it's a learner's permit for the commercial vehicle, just mark the appropriate number for that box there. They do want the emergency agency that took them off to the hospital, if they did go to the hospital, along where they were taken to. Now, this next section here, this pedestrian stuff, used to be up top along the top row there. We moved it down here next to the individual unit. The pedestrian visibility thing has not really changed at all, whether they had contrasting clothing or not, or using like a reflective material or jacket. The location or the action, I should say, would go here. That's pretty much stayed the same. Nothing really new's changed here. They did add a few other areas for like crossing with a pet or pedestrian, whether they were not at an intersection, at an intersection. Like I said, now the location for the pedestrian there, they have added a few things there, or that's updated a little bit. They have added, like in the roadway, obviously, or a crosswalk, but they've also added, like on the roadside or a bikeway, or if they're walking on a shoulder or riding on a shoulder, or a bike lane. Now, from what I understand, a bikeway and a bike path are pretty much the same. The only thing I can find different-wise in bike lanes is when they have, I know some cities, not a lot, have bicycle areas where it's next to the side of the road, but bike lanes are both opposite directions, so it's actually two bike lanes. I believe that's what they're wanting to track there. But a bike path or a designated bike path or whatever would be, again, if they're on the shoulder, with some of the locations, those are all kind of new. Now, the incident responder, this is if, by chance, if it was an EMS vehicle or a fire truck or department vehicle or police or a tow operator, some kind of a maintenance worker safety device patrol, or some kind of incident responder involved in a crash, you would mark it yes there. And if it is marked yes, again, what type it is, there will be a drop down for what type it is. Make and model for the vehicle is pretty much self-explanatory. Okay, next on the agenda is going to be the automation. This is all new. Automation system, whether it's yes, no, or unknown, the level is, right now, from what we're looking at, is there's several in the drop down. There's a total of 7 in a drop down box or on the card itself, on the template. The one that's probably going to be used the most in this area would probably be number 1, which would be the driver assistance, which could be anything from, the lane departure, letting you know, or the rattling or the shaking of the steering wheel a little bit. Some vehicles you can set a certain distance to remain behind a vehicle and out on the highway, whether it's 100 feet, 200 feet, or whatever, that kind of thing. They can, driver assistance can slow down and stop a vehicle or accelerate it. But at this time, that's probably where we are. Besides trying to get this information from maybe the driver, I honestly don't, besides the download, that's probably going to be about the best ways you can determine that, by driver saying, yeah, it was on or not, or that kind of thing. That's kind of a learning curve here on this one. So this is all really kind of brand new. And what the amount of level, or the engaged level, I guess, at the time of the crash, also, which has a drop down of 6 things. So next on that would be the plate, state, year, the VIN, that kind of thing, is all that information. Vehicle owner, if the vehicle owner is the same as the driver, just put down same. Damaged areas, they've kind of updated and giving you more choices here, a bigger clock, basically. Again, circle the damaged area, but down here in this box, we want the point of first impact, where basically where it was first hit. So the whole side could be damaged, but first point of contact was number 9, say, something on that order. Over here in the towed area, whether it was yes or no, the fire, whether the vehicle had caught fire now, this distracted area here, yes or no, and there, for this value, there will be an area on the template or a drop down. They've added a few things, you know, cell phone hands-free or handheld, whether cell phone if they were texting or something on that order, electronic devices such as maybe a navigational system or a radio or their little onboard computer there on the screens now, or just straight out inside the vehicle or outside the vehicle, something was going on inside that way, or just inattentive type thing. Down here, the commercial vehicle, if it was marked yes, again, you'll have to go to the back side of the crash report and fill out the information on the commercial vehicle and go from there. Insurance company, who it is, policy numbers, that kind of thing, whether it was valid or not. And again, if you don't have that at the time, all you really need to do is if you do get it later after everything's been dispersed or a couple days later, again, just go ahead and use a 1058, update the information and send it in that way. For Unit 2, again, same thing for Unit 2 and Unit 3, Unit 4 if you've got multiple vehicles. Passenger and witness information here, besides the passenger and witness information, you'll also, if a train's involved, we'd want to go ahead and have the train engineer conductor in this area and not as a driver of a unit. Basically, drivers of a unit that would, you know, you don't want it showing up on the guy's driving record as being involved in a motor vehicle crash when he was in a train. Having said that, also, you know, you might want to put down for officers if you're in a pursuit, that kind of thing, and not a pit maneuver or anything like that, but in a pursuit where you're following, and this guy wipes out and takes on something or hits somebody or just a fixed object. You might want to put yourself down as a witness, not as a non-contact vehicle or anything like that. Again, that would put the driver or the officer in a position for the crash to be reported as a crash on his driver's license. The damaged property area over here, this is for, you know, the property damage only, that kind of thing. It's just other than vehicles basically, and then the address for the property owner. Contributory cause right here is kind of basically the same spot right in here. You'll find that on the back of template 2 for the drop downs. The arrest name and citations right here for the sections of the citation number, whether it was issued, pending, or whatever over here. Down here would be the officer ID and signature, supervisor ID, that kind of thing. Let's see here. Okay, this is all new here. Time, obviously, it's when they were notified of the incident or had to respond. Sometimes I understand that, you know, EMS and the police are kind of notified sometimes at the same time. If that's the case, go ahead and mark it. But if the officer gets to the scene and request ambulance or fire department show up, go ahead and mark that time and what time they arrived. The road clearance is basically when the road clears, last man standing, that type of thing. When the scene's done and completed and everything's back to normal, we want you to kind of note that. The feds they're wanting to know how long these roads are being shut down, that kind of thing. And the court date is the same area there also. Next, we're going to go over here to the crash area, the work zone area, whether it was yes or no, and if it was yes, whether it was a construction, maintenance, utility, that kind of thing, and whether workers are present. Now, in the crash zone, it's going to be the first warning sign is the start of the work zone area. That could be, you know, several feet or several miles away from the actual crash itself, but the first indication of a work zone would be the first warning sign, not a mobile sign that's not a mobile sign like an overhead or give instructions to or whatever. It also would involve like I said, the end of of a work zone would be the end of road sign or the last temporary traffic control device would be the end of a work zone. The portable message boards that you see out there, they are not considered an advance warning. So, like I said, it's just the road construction ahead or the work ahead, mowing ahead, those kind of things. Will determine the work zone area. Now, within the work zone area also, if you have a queuing problem and traffic is backed up beyond the first warning sign because of construction or something like that was going on ahead, it still would be considered a work zone crash even though they're outside the zone. If the traffic is backed up that far and they have somebody sideswipe or whatever or rear-ending because of the traffic flows that far back. Next, we're going to go to the event boxes over here. Try to just, we know it's kind of tough to have just 3 events in a crash sometimes. The best way I can tell you to do is just follow each individual unit of what they do and use the best events possible to tell us what happened. I know you're not going to be able to sometimes catch all of the events in these boxes, and if that's the case, just kind of give us a brief thing and a narrative of what's going on. And the most severe, mark the one that's probably the most severe in that general area, whether it be the rollover or hitting a fixed object, that kind of thing. The location, whether it was, you've seen them before, whether it's off-road right or off-road left. The best advice I can give you there is just follow each individual unit by itself. And like I said, if you've got more than one event, go ahead and kind of give us that in the narrative. Okay, before we get up into the barcode area or the codes up top around the side here, like I said, if you guys got any kind of questions or concerns or need a little bit more information of this stuff, it will be in the handbook, or just, like I said, give me a call or email me, and we can talk about it and answer it the best we can. So with the next up here in the DRAC area, the apparent physical the apparent physical condition is pretty much the same. Nothing's really changed there. Traffic control devices. There has not really been too much of a change there. They do have, the one change that I can tell you about is they used to have what they call lane markings. I know some agencies and do use a lane marking as a control device. That has been removed for a lane choice or lane markings for a device. We'd have to use what they would consider other, and just write down for the condition of the thing appropriately. Weather, what was the time of the accident, that kind of thing. Let's see driver action, there's been a few updates on that. For the driver action, they've actually added a couple things, nothing too serious. They still have, you know, the fail to yields and that kind of thing, but they did have a like an overcorrection, overcorrected. If the action of the driver went off the side of the road and overcorrected and went off, came back on the road and went off the other side, that kind of thing. Just an overcorrection's been added. Other than that, vision's still the same. Vehicle defects are the same. Lighting's pretty much the same. Now, on the collision types, they have updated them and kind of reworded them. That's about it on for the crash types. For a single vehicle crash, it's going to be you're going to have to use the codes 1 through 8 on that, and those are pertaining to just a single vehicle crash. Now, the multi-vehicle crashes are going to be 9 through 18. I'm sorry, 9 through 18, and some of those are changed or been updated, reworded a little bit. The first few are still the same, you know. Instead of a rear end, they call it front to rear. They still have side swipe, same or opposite direction. A head-on now is called front to front, and angle crash is the same. But they 16, 17, and 18 are all new, and it's basically a rear to a side of a car, a rear to rear, I guess, vehicles moving out of a parking lane or a parking area that heat each other, or the same as a rear to a front. They've just given you more choices on that area. That's about all the changes there. And with some of the templates, there was a printing problem, and they were sent out with those arrows in that area. There are stickers available for your templates. If you did not receive some, or if you want more, give us a call and order them. We can get those to you. That way you can just stick them to the template, and more than likely the hard copy of the template is the one that's going to stay in the squad anyway. I know that they're in the books. They're blank. So if you need stickers, give us a holler. If not, just use the ones for the hard template covers that we sent you, and go from there. The maneuvers are pretty much, nothing's really changed there, too terribly drastic. They did add a disabled vehicle in this section now, just in case of there's a disabled vehicle on the roadway. Instead of having it parked, which is not what's really going on there, they wanted to mark disabled on that. Other than that, the vehicle maneuvers are pretty much the same as they were before originally. Let's see here. The traffic way descriptions over here, they've added a few of those now. They've given you more choices, as they say. In the drop down you'll see it, but on the template you'll see what type it is. It's you know, 4-way, a T. You've got a Y intersection one now. You've got a traffic circle and a traffic roundabout, or roundabout. Depending on where you're from, is I think they're pretty much the only thing I can find is they really are kind of the same. But I think a traffic circle is just a possible circle with. The roundabout has more entryways to it, I believe, but they also have an intersection of 5 points or more, intersection, an L intersection, that kind of thing. Vehicle types are staying pretty much the same. Now, here's something new on the lanes. They want the number of lanes on each individual roadway for each individual unit, alignments on those roadways for each individual unit, and the road surface. Vehicle uses are here, and the new thing here after the vehicle use is the speed related. That's a new thing that's come on here. Let's see here. Speed related is where there's a code for the speed related area here. A drop down of what was going on, or if it's in the book, it's, you know, whether it was racing, was it just excessive speed or exceeding speed limit, too fast for conditions here also, and they got an area if it's other than that, just specific and then unknown, but you can write that down in the narrative also. So that's kind of new. They want to do the for both drivers, if anything with speeding was going on. Road defects are here, pretty much staying the same. The BAC results for the drivers of 1 and 2 are here, and the number, and with the BAC, they do want you to go to the 3 positions over from the decimal. So instead of the .08, it would be .080 or .081 or on. They just want the 3 numbers now. They want a little more specific than this, the general .0. Number of occupants right here. The direction of travel prior to any crash was right here for both units. Let's see here. Next is going to be the posted speed limits, which would be right here. And then after that, the front of the crash report is pretty much completed. On the back side of it here, obviously this is for the narrative and for the narrative and for the diagram. We do like you to indicate the direction of north for the way that we draw out the roads. Again, when a reconstruction is being done, please do not see reconstruction as for the drawing or the narrative. Like I said, sometimes we do not get those, or they're very late, or they're not completed when we have to work these as soon as possible. We try to work these. This is all the information for the commercial vehicle section here. They've added a few things here on the commercial vehicle, just a little more information here. Let's see here. On there, I know they want you to do the carrier information here and their address, and they're wanting to know what they are, interstate or intrastate. That kind of thing. The DOT number, the ICC number here, and the source where you got those numbers are right here, whether it's from the papers or off the vehicle itself or from the driver or logbook. The appropriate weight the vehicle is greater than 26,000 or that kind of thing. Now, whether it was a hazmat and whether it was placard, yes or no, and a name of the placard, and the 4-digit code for that. This right here is for a hazmat spill, and it's not for the vehicle's fuel. It's just strictly for what they were hauling. Self-explanatory there, the hazmat regs, the safety regulations, that kind of thing. Here they've added pertinent number, whether it's wide load, yes or no, but here they've also added a place to put the VIN trailers here, because always when a commercial vehicle is involved, we always want the power unit up front with the driver. That's the information and the VIN number for the power unit. The trailer information can go here in this area here. They want the trailer widths and lengths and the total length of everything along with the number of axles. The cargo body types, again, those are on some of the crash reports. The numbers have been left out. We do have they are in the instruction manuals, the correct numbers for those cargo body types and configurations. And if you need any of that information, please contact us. We also have what they call a visor card for that information. So if you'd like to get a visor card, go ahead and order a visor card for the cargo information through us, and we can take care of that. Going over here to the bottom of this on this side, this area here is really for any kind of use that you guys want, local use only. If you need to go into it by a line or so for the narrative, that's no big deal. But if you need more room in a narrative, again, go ahead and just start another sheet and use the additional unit, and make sure that you use the barcode for the original report. This right here is all kind of new here, the damage and the towing. This right here is for the vehicle colors, but if the vehicle was towed, and we need to know if it was towed because of the disabling damage or not, and if it was damaged, the extent of the damage. And it's on the template itself, or it'll be a drop-down box also. But it's pretty, whether it's minor damage or functional damage or disabling damage, that kind of thing. And the tow company, it would go right here. Other than that, I think we've gone through the report. Is where I'm at. After everything has been completed here on the back side, that would be considered completed, and towards the okay, having said all of that, the crash report is completed. I'm going to hand it over to Mark. He wants to give you a heads up on a few other things, and again, if you have any questions or concerns, please give me a holler or email me, and I'll answer to the best of my knowledge, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Greg. Like you said, that point, this concludes the video training session. On the screen is, again, our contact information should you have any questions. We all talk to each other. We're all in the same room, so if you don't know who to talk to, just pick one and go with it. We are going to have the PowerPoint presentation that we are using to do this video. It will be available in the same spot you found this video, along with, we're going to try and have a frequently asked questions type thing out there. We know there's going to be some questions on this if you can't get a hold of us or just want to look through the frequently asked questions. Also, we're going to have probably a couple documents out there. One of them is going to be the automation types. We're going to take that out of the muck book, the model minimum uniform crash criteria. All the definitions are in there. We are going to include those as well. So, if you have any questions, use the contact information, get a hold of us, and we'll help you out the best we can or point you in the right direction. So, thanks for attending.